Hi everyone, I'm incredibly honoured to share the news that I've been named a top tech innovator by CEO Magazine for 2025. I wanted to briefly explain what sits behind that recognition. I guess one of the things that I've learned over my career is that innovation actually comes from pain. It doesn't come from great ideas necessarily that are not grounded in reality. They come from an intense connection with a problem. And for me, that problem was so painful that I felt compelled personally to solve that. And any of my friends know just how passionate I feel about this. They know that I've spent the best part of every waking hour for the last 3 years working on solving this problem. And I think that's really the difference between sort of a good idea that you might have on a Friday night for a business versus something that you feel in your bones that's so personal and so incredible that you just can't put it down. And that's exactly what's happened for me with Kiraa. Just to explain that in a little bit more detail, I guess I talk about my career for 30 years. In fact, I was an accountant. I actually started as a graduate trainee working for Nestle. And in the article, I talk about how I got my big break, which was effectively the main reason for behind the innovation for Kiraa, which was that I really hated doing month end. I love the analysis work. I love solving problems. I love getting involved in manufacturing and trying to, just remove waste and make lines run more effectively and allow people to really do a great job and feel proud of what they've done. But I got really frustrated because I spent a lot of my time as a graduate doing stuff that was really just shit work. I mean, it was just pulling down reports from mainframes and trying to convert them. So what I did was what any great innovator would do, is try and find a way that you can automate it so you don't have to spend as much time doing stuff that's not value added. And so in my case, what I did is I managed to teach myself how to get into the Nestle mainframe. I found a book at a bookstore that taught me how to write queries, and I got into the back end and I started writing all these really great reports that were exactly what I needed to do my job better. The problem is that I got really a little bit too adventurous with that, and I actually overwrote the customer master file. I saved the query back over the master table. And don't forget, this is back in the days when you didn't really have a lot of sophistication with security, and once you found a backdoor into a system, it was generally wide open. It wouldn't be possible now, and I guess if I did it again now, I probably would have been sacked on the spot. But somebody inside Nestle saw something, which was that this guy's smart. This guy clearly worked out how to do something that we didn't know was even possible. And so instead of sacking me, they actually put me on an international project. And I spent the next 10 years writing a new manufacturing costing system and traveling around the world implementing that, helping other businesses in the Nestle group get their month ends and get their reporting and then getting their analysis stronger and faster. And so that was a huge opportunity that really just came in a very unconventional way. And I think that whole thing is really what propelled my career in a direction that just wouldn't be possible today. So as I mentioned, I spent most of my career, in fact, all of my career working in large corporates. I've headed analytics teams, and I've lived the reality of pulling together complex analysis and managing the demands of lots of people, CEOs, CFOs, etc. And one of the things that you find working in accounting roles is that the work is punishing. I wouldn't recommend people ever work the hours that I worked. And I worked weekends. I worked late at nights. I pulled many all-nighters. In fact, it was almost expected, particularly in the big end of town, the big corporates. This is not a 9-to-5 job. Everyone understands that. But I really got to a point where I really started to hate month end. I really hated month end because I found I ended up doing the same things all the time. Every month I'd pull the same spreadsheets, I'd pull the same files. And so you feel like you were never actually making progress. You were just going through the motions, and that was often half of the month end that I spent on month end activities. The other half of the time was great. I could actually get involved in cost savings projects and profitability analysis and really cool stuff. But it was always this horrible, getting dragged back into the month end grind and then coming out and doing some value added work. So I reckon over my career, I've probably done 300 month ends. I've probably spent a couple of years of my life just doing month ends and doing routine analysis. And I guess for most people, they just accept that's the way it is. But it's not a great business model, and it's not great for people to accept that a job just requires overtime, and it requires you to miss out on family events. And I know when I think about my career, I look back at all of the time that I've worked, and I've had a great career. I've been extremely lucky. I've traveled the world. But that's also come as a personal cost. I've missed birthdays. I've missed friends' weddings because I just couldn't get out of month end. And that might have been acceptable in the 90s and the 2000s, but it's just not acceptable today. No one is paid enough to give up their life, and I think that we need to be thinking about, when we think about technology and innovation, we shouldn't be just thinking about how great the large language models are and how great the tools are. We need to be thinking about the humans that are doing this work and how to make their lives better. I actually don't know that Gen Z would put up with the same shit that I did. I think Gen Z, they get a lot of stick from people about being lazy, but I actually don't think that's true. I think they've just got perspective. I think they understand that a job's a job, and you need to, and that your employer has an obligation for you to provide you the tools that you need to do that job in a reasonable time frame. But I know that working in corporates, particularly in multinationals, that's not the way they think. They recognise the fact that you get paid extremely well and you get great opportunities, but that comes at a huge personal cost. And I just don't think that in the future people are going to be quite as accepting of that as I was in the 90s. It's just not a great way to work. It's not great personal. It's not great for your family, and it's just not a great business model. So if there's one thing that I really hope that I can achieve through this award is to talk about ways that we should be thinking about innovation as being not just trying to save money and reduce headcount, but actually make the lives of people so much more enriching. Because I've worked with a lot of great finance people over the years. A lot of people love doing what they do, but like me, they hate the month end. They love the really great deep analysis. They love getting involved in a problem and researching it. But to constantly go back every month and do the same stuff month after month is just mind-numbing, and it really is not going to attract the same caliber of people that it did in the past. So the idea that I'm proposing really is around Kiraa eliminating month end. I want to eliminate this whole concept that we spend so much of our time looking backwards doing routine analysis, and because I think that the technology has now advanced to the level that we can automate this stuff. We really can. We can really eliminate month end entirely, and what I'd like to replace that with is a world where we move away from this idea that we have to stop the business once a month to do the reporting, and move to a world where we have continuous analytics generation, where insights are always available. There shouldn't be the need for us to stop and calculate anymore. The technology and the workflows and the AI is now so good that can be a thing of the past. And that's the one thing that I wanted to get across in my interview with the CEO magazine, is that I just think that there's so much more that we can get out of people if we solve the right problems. And the problems that we solve shouldn't be technical ones, they should be human ones. And so the actual technology that I've developed, the analytical data frame, it comes from a desire to try and accelerate that month-end analysis as quickly as possible. And for example, one of our customers, their month-end file is about 1.5 million records. If I was to do that analysis using traditional data science tools, through Python and through others, that could take 20 or 30 hours to run to generate. We can do that, and we can now do that same amount of work in just a matter of about 9 minutes. So the algorithm that I've developed is really, it's taken me a long time to refine it, but the reason why I did it is because I believe that we can, with the right orchestration and the right algorithms, we don't have to be waiting 20 hours to do a single month end. We can get the month end down to a matter of minutes, and if we can get it down to a matter of minutes, then it means we can do it every day. And if we can do it every day, then the whole concept of month end is gone, because we just move into this continuous analytical cycle. So for me, winning this award was not necessarily about technology as such. It was really about talking about innovation coming from a place of great pain and building a future which solves problems for humans. It's around making a real difference that actually enriches the work of the accountants and lets people do the things that really inspire them, because we all know that we always put our best work in when we're solving the problems that mean the most to us. So this award really was a great endorsement of my belief that that there is a better way to work, and I think I'm really grateful that the judges chose to award me this, and really looking forward to a future where technology is used to unlock human capability and not just